I recently had the good fortune of traveling through Southeast Asia. In fact, I did 17 cities over the time period I was there. And during my time there, I got to stay at some great hotels, some five-star hotels. And through observation, I found that there are three things that these organizations do in their business that you can do in your business. So you're going to learn these three things and how you can implement them right away. Hi, I'm Chris Reynolds, and I'm on a mission to help independent financial advisors build a better business through a remarkable client experience. In this podcast, you're going to learn how to do that from my conversations with the visionaries, the leaders, the independent advisors who are reshaping the future of the financial advice industry. At the end of each episode, you're going to walk away with an actionable idea that you can take and use right now, and it will help you to build a better business today. This is Turning the Page. Two of my passions are travel and food. Travel especially, it allows me to see the rest of the world, lets me look at how they live, look at their cultures, and going back to the first thing, also their foods. I love to embrace new places and really study what makes them different from us in North America. Now, when you travel as much as I do, you get to stay at a whole bunch of different types of hotels and you get to dine at different restaurants. Some are great, some meet your expectations, some disappoint, but other ones are so outstanding that you are almost compelled to tell everyone you ever meet about your experiences there. And so now, whenever I travel anywhere, I'm always taking notes and I'm always trying to figure out what makes some places so fantastic and why do they stand out from other ones. And especially because this is the service business, whether you're going to hotels or whether you're going to restaurants, it's all about service. It's all about the memory. And as a business owner, I want to understand why some can charge a huge premium for doing essentially the same commodity. Like, let's think about it. Think about hotel rooms, right? Let's think about hotels. Hotels are essentially, they're all the same, right? Most hotels that I'm familiar with, they have a bed, they might have a TV, and they have a bathroom. However, for that commodity, for a bed, a TV, and a bathroom, your price range is anywhere from under $100 a night to hundreds of thousands of dollars a night. Now, I've never paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a night for a hotel room, but I understand that they exist. And each one of these hotels is focused on a particular type of client and what they're looking for in the hotel. So I thought that would be a great podcast to talk about what makes five-star hotels and five-star restaurants 5 stars. Why can they charge a massive premium? And yet, even when you're paying this huge premium, the customer, including me, would say, you know what, that was well worth the money. So these are my observations. I've taken a bunch of observations. As I said, I take notes of all the different places that I've traveled. And these are the three things that I've sort of pinpointed that makes them stand out. The first and most important thing is they hire happy people. The old adage is actually true. Hire for attitude and train for skill, especially in the service business, right? Attitude is the one thing that you cannot train into somebody. People either have it or they don't. Now, this seems so simple, and yet today, companies still continue to struggle at this particular adage. Right? At the end of the day, what five-star businesses do is they have people who actually care about the customer. And there's one thing that I have learned, and again, my years of business, is happiness is something that you can't teach anybody. Five-star companies start right at the beginning, right at the hiring process. They have a great screening process. They're always looking at new talent to join them. And they encourage and only hire people who share this customer service type of attitude. A couple podcasts ago, we had someone from Disney. And one of the things that he said was, you know why Disney has so many happy people who work there? And the answer was, we hire them that way. We don't make them that way. We look for people who are genuinely happy. And those are the people we want dealing with our customers. So think about your business when you're building your team. Do you focus when you're hiring them on their skill set or their attitude? Do you focus on their education or their level of happiness? Do you promote people around customer feedback or whether they worked hard that year? Because all of these decisions become the DNA of your company. because there's nothing more exciting, and I'm sure everyone has had this experience at least once in their career. There's nothing more exciting than working with a group of happy people with good attitudes that focus on making a client happy. It's a great experience. And I have some examples because it's easy. As I said, you travel around, you see this, you observe this, but let me give you an example of how much happiness affects your client. And they say that your first impression is your lasting impression. So I was traveling Asia late last year, and I got to stay at the Ritz-Carlton in Hong Kong. And anyone who's ever seen it, it's a spectacular hotel. But everything is thought through. Right? As we drive up, they ask for our name at the front gate. From then on, everyone we met at the Ritz-Carlton, from the person who opened our door to the person who took our luggage, to the person who greeted us on the elevator, to the person who greeted us at reception, everyone greeted us by name. They were saying, Mr. Reynolds, oh, thank you, and welcome to the Ritz-Carlton. This went on, everyone, even the person who is cleaning the floor, one of the rooms as we walked by, said, oh, welcome to the Ritz-Carlton, Mr. Reynolds. Even as we went down to the restaurant, people were greeting us by name. That greeting and those smiles that everybody had went so long, because my impression after that, I'm not sure what my room cost. I'm sure it wasn't cheap, but it made all the difference. And then to top that off, as we're going out, there's a door person. We ask, can we get a cab? And most people in a lot of other establishments would simply draw the transaction at that. They would get us a cab. They'd be efficient. I'd probably tip them. This individual took the time to ask us where we're going, where we were from, what were we interested in? Is there anything particularly we wanted to see in Hong Kong? Then took the time to give us a list of all the things that we should see while we were there, and gave us their cell phone number in case we needed anything or anything translated. That made us feel special, right? The experience of getting a cab is now one of my more memorable experiences in going to Hong Kong. Happy people made me want to not only use that hotel again, but tell others about it. So that's number one. Number one is hire happy people. Number two, from observation, is they train them well to follow tried and true processes. It's my observation that five-star companies have great processes that everyone follows to the letter. They pay attention to the little details, like how you were greeted, as I talked about. They gave us a tour. They remembered our names. They made our bed a certain way. They left us presents. They also make it personal, and nothing is left to chance. It was all a process, and everyone was well trained on the process to the letter. I use another example of this training and these processes and making these little things that aren't really that expensive stand out for you as a customer. We stayed in this boutique hotel one time in Malibu. And I remember this was years ago, by the way. This was got to be 10, 12 years ago. Every morning I would wake up and there would be a newspaper at my door. This is how long ago it was when people actually had newspapers. But they not only had a newspaper, they had it from my city that I lived in. They had a Toronto newspaper on my step. And as I walked down the hall, I saw, the Boston Herald, I saw the New York Times, I saw a variety of different newspapers in front of each door. In other words, they had actually personalized the newspaper that was given to us in the morning. How did they do that? Well, of course, it's a process, right? They train people on the process. As you check in, you hand them your passport, you hand them your ID, you give them your address. All of this is put into a CRM. And every morning, someone downloads a summary of the newspaper from the city you live in. In my case, unfortunately, it was the Toronto Star, which we can debate whether it's a newspaper or not. But that was on my floor and of my doorway each and every morning as I woke up. That's paying attention to detail. That's training on tried and true processes. The other example is also training common sense into everyone, allowing people to be themselves within processes and having the latitude to make snap decisions to make that customer feel special. And I don't think there's any example better in the hotel business, at least, than the Four Seasons. And again, a few years ago, I was in Mexico City at the Four Seasons. And when you're in Mexico, you sometimes, as I did, you get an upset stomach. My spouse called down and she said, Chris isn't feeling very well. Can you just send me up some steak and maybe just some tea or whatever for him? As I go down the next day, Everyone was like, "Oh, Mr. Reynolds, I hope you're feeling better." As I went over to the breakfast thing, someone brought over some of their homemade potion that they had used for generations to help with a sore stomach. It was amazing. It was kind of embarrassing, by the way, and I'm sharing it with everyone on my podcast. But it was amazing to see how they were able to adapt to a specific situation, and everybody in the whole hotel embraced it. And again, I remember that, and I've told many, many people that stories. The third thing that I noticed by observation is they're given the right tools to be successful. And whether that's a technology to be more efficient, like a CRM, or removing obstacles to give better personal service, five-star companies make sure everybody has the right tools to provide the best service possible. And they always start with the customer. They ask, what do we need to provide the best service possible? How can we equip our people with that information so they can make the right choices and the right processes at the right time to really help this customer have a great experience? And I have two examples for you. One, I was at the hotel called the Banyan Tree. It was in Krabi in Thailand. And as you check in, they actually give you your own personal butler. Now, it's not really a person or a butler per se. They actually just give you a WhatsApp number. And anytime you want anything, you just send a message to this one WhatsApp number, and 24 hours a day, someone will answer you. They'll book cars, they'll book restaurants, they'll book massages, they'll book tours, they'll even give you a coffee to your room. But that kind of technology, that kind of enablement allows them to really offer this world-class type service on a regular basis. From a restaurant point of view, I've also had a great experience. There's a down here in Miami, there's a restaurant called Mr. Chow's. Great. We go there on a semi-regular basis. We're pretty well known there. But then we were in New York City once, and we decided, let's try the New York City Mr. Chow's. You wanted to see how it was. As we line up, there's a huge crowd of people. But for some reason, the woman at reception, and how they got our picture, I still don't know to this day, saw us through the crowd of people, pointed to us, said, "Come on over," pulled us to the front, sat us at the table and say, "Now you normally drink this wine and order this. Would you like the same this evening?" I was amazed. Here we are in a completely different city, and their system was set up that they knew that I had been more than a few times to the restaurant here in Miami, and they were able to offer this sort of crazy experience in New York. And once again, I've told everyone. So now from a world-class business, from observation, how do you build a five-star type of experience? And the first thing, it starts with the people. Do you have the right people? Right? Do you have the right processes and systems? Are you training your people on a regular basis? And are you providing them with the right tools that they can do it over and over and over again? So as conclusion, we've talked many times in this podcast, great businesses focus on the experience of the customer. They dazzle them. They delight them. They make them feel special. And they create processes to do that 100% of the time. So all I can tell people is continue to focus on your people, who you hire, how you train them, the tools you provide them, clear obstacles, and then give them the freedom to make your customer happy. This is very pronounced in the luxury brand hotel and dining experience. This is where awesome experiences make all the difference, because hotels are hotels, food is food, but the experience around those things. And the stories I've shared with you today, I've shared not only with everyone here on this podcast, but I've shared them with hundreds and hundreds of people as I tell this story wherever I go, of these different experiences that I've had. And as a result, many people have taken my recommendations and have stayed or eaten at these hotels or restaurants. Remember, with business, word of mouth is powerful. And that's why these businesses thrive and continue to be able to charge a huge premium for essentially the same commodity. Once Warren Buffett said, "I don't remember how much I paid for something, but I do remember how they made me feel." If you think about that every day, you too will create a great client experience. So over the next 12 months, ask yourself, what are you going to change in your business to provide your customer with five-star experience? Do you have the right team? Do you have the right processes? Do you have the right training? And do you have the right technology to make it happen? I hope so. Now, I'm sure you've had some five-star experiences and you'd like to create more of these five-star experiences with your own business. If you want to talk about them, and I'd love to brainstorm with a lot of people, especially on this topic, because I love this topic, I would love to have a virtual coffee with you. Just go to the show notes, go to the link, and you can set up a coffee, and this would be a great topic for us to debate. Thanks for joining me on Turning the Page. What did you learn from today's episode? If you follow me on LinkedIn, please drop me a comment there. I'd love to chat with you about it over a virtual coffee. Send me a message on LinkedIn, or you can do so at our website. The link's in the show notes. I'm Chris Reynolds, and until next time.